It is somewhat reasonable to suspect that I was selected in part cahooter with Jimmy C because of the Mason-Dixon line. I was from the North, Jimmy C. They wanted a basis of comparison in revenging the Confederacy. To understand the way the British prioritized things, let's look at the way that they provided in Liverpool Secret Service for the Confederacy in the war between the states, the Civil War of the United States of America. In building an ark, they decided to include black people, but they called them the good kind of black people, people who go along with genocide, who are black, who just happen to be black. To understand the way the British prioritize things, the foreign English have one established priority. It must make money for Britain. Therefore, it is good. And the rest of it can be damned. This is across the board. The British Workers' Party, the sandbaggers, rock stars, the Tory government, the Labour government, across the board. That is the one almighty factor, is that it belonged to and make money for the British. Therefore, it is good or bad, depending on whether it does or doesn't. Now, Pittsburgh public schools are venomous, rancorous, stupid, foolish, criminally insane, subjecting to organized pedophilia coming from the State Department, the Pentagon, the U.S. Army, and the Veterans Administration, as all the evidence shows. It's hard facts show that this is the truth. And the British are mired in assisting as ideological spectators and investors in this program. And they believe that they have the right to come up with absurd, criminal, deviant, sadistic, weird, vampiric, pseudo homework. And in their diagram from Pope Karl and the Zionist Christians of Pittsburgh, Eastminster, and Pitt, is this idea that in the moral framework you can tell whether an important person is worth more than the masses of people or not. And it's heaped with the logic of British intelligence that if it makes money for Britain, it is good. If it doesn't, it's bad. The idea that one person's death is a tragedy, but a million deaths is a statistic, is the essence of the script coulda. Coulda, grunt, grunt, grunt. Coulda, grunt, grunt, grunt. Now, if you ask me, if I had recognized a threat to John Lennon, who was the mastermind, I don't think. Keep in mind, the evidence shows that he pulled this as a movie stunt over mass media. A challenge written from the days of D'Annunzio and Fayum. And it's all traceable in Hollywood's nightmare syndicate, the weaselry of Clint Eastwood and Walt Disney and so on. But if I had recognized the threat to John Lennon, would I have responded to it rather than gone to Mount Desert Island and investigated Zell, knowing that it might mean giving up a chance to rescue people from the threat of those who authored AIDS? I may well have said, I have to take care of the problem of rescuing a fellow human being first, and then do my level best to try to investigate Zoe, because nothing is that predetermined. Now, it may have been that Paul McCartney and Pope Carl were saying, if he tries to rescue John Lennon, we will automatically erase the right to investigate the AIDS attack. It might have been that they were working an erasure if then, because they were assassins of President Kennedy and they were making a grandiose argument about the greater good. And Pittsburgh actually believes that this is the logical right of public school administrations to kidnap, torture, and gas a child by brutal pedophiles and call it homework. What really happened is actually very alarming and revealing. What really happened was that Franklin Graham's dacoit, Sean Brooks, spinner beanied, will lock Queerbaugh out of church and give him theft. And the last one will be a virgin, and we'll call it Search for the Great White, like Moby Dick. And announce that as cause in the AIDS attack, a justification in the AIDS attack. We will pay for and score abortions on the slave golem. And that will be our prized morality presentation. And what I did was I went undercover to investigate and prove that this was going on. And Paul McCartney came, jumped down whole peepee, nah, 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 could have saved John Lennon. Jump down, whole peepee, nah, 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 could have saved John Lennon. And Ringo Starr said, that's our money. That's our money. We'll give you AIDS. And they have this viperous, spiderous Japanese woman. I mean, talk about misogyny for Asian women. They have this super Japanese woman posting in boots on TikTok, the true virgin of the AIDS attack. And they think they're building a defense for themselves because they actually have laid their cards on the table for the whole program. And everybody's going to go, shh, don't talk about it, because Jimmy Queewee is going to perform for us, as Pope Carl used to say when I was a battered deaf child. And they have this guy, I don't know his name. I don't know. He's a funny sort. He says, every day I think about what Weezo would have done. And then he postulates that Weezo would castrate a deaf American poet while he expands his lifeline, and yet a fifth mixed breed nest of true romance. It's obviously true romance. No one can mistake it. That Weasel loved true romance, provided that it made money for the British.